Before we get to today's episode, let me ask you, are you stuck on whether your story idea is book-worthy? Are you struggling to weave your scenes into one cohesive narrative? Or are you a serial starter who never quite makes it to the end? My free guide, Nail Your Story Idea, solves all three problems. You'll uncover your story's core in just 3 steps, create a rock-solid one-sentence premise, and get the confidence boost you need to finish what you start. Get yours free at nancypanuccio.com/idea. Nancy with an I, Panuccio with 2 C's, nancypanuccio.com/idea. All right, let's get to today's episode. Not every ending has to explode. A quiet moment of realization can hold equal power if it opens a new question for the reader. Writer Unleashed is for you, a writer who has a story you want to bring onto the page and into the hearts and minds of readers. I'm Nancy Panuccio, writer, editor, and book coach. Each week, we'll explore techniques, mindsets, and inspiration for writing stories readers can't put down. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now, let's begin. What makes someone stay up past their bedtime turning pages? It's not car chases or explosions. It's not even life or death stakes. It's suspense. And suspense isn't limited to thrillers. It's what pulls readers through a quiet memoir, a historical novel, a fantasy, or literary fiction. Any story where readers need to know what happens next. In today's episode, we're talking about narrative suspense, the kind that makes your readers unable to put your book down, even when nothing big or dramatic is happening. So let's start by talking about what suspense actually is. When we hear the word suspense, we picture ticking bombs or serial killers, like this high dramatic action, but that's only one expression of it. At its core, suspense is uncertainty about something that matters. If it doesn't matter, we don't care. If the outcome feels certain or predictable, all the tension deflates. If there's no pressure to know now, readers drift away. Across all genres, suspense rests on these 3 elements. Number 1, something that matters, a goal, desire, or fear that hits the character on a deep emotional level. Number 2, genuine uncertainty. We don't know whether the character will get what he or she wants or what it will cost. And number 3, sustained pressure, a reason we can't wait until tomorrow to find out. That's it. Suspense turns events into story. Without it, you may have beautiful writing, but readers won't feel compelled to keep reading. They won't feel the urge to keep turning the page. Okay, so let's talk about 3 techniques for creating narrative suspense. Technique number 1 is to plant a central question early. Every story that grips us has a driving question, something readers and characters need answered. In memoir, that question might be, why did my mother leave when I was 11 years old? In historical fiction, the question might be, who betrayed them? In fantasy, can she master her power before it destroys her? In literary fiction, will this marriage survive? So you want to plant that question early and return to it often. Give partial answers that complicate the story, that complicate the mystery, rather than close it. Each time you revisit it, add depth, not answers. Add more depth, another piece of the puzzle, more knowledge, another insight. By the end, you're going to answer or reframe the question in a way that satisfies the emotional journey. So here are some questions to ask yourself. Can you state your story's core question in one sentence? Do readers know why it matters to your protagonist? And do you circle back to this question throughout the story? Okay, technique number 2. Use foreshadowing to create dread, not just surprise. Now, most writers think suspense means withholding information, and that's true. You do want to withhold. So you want to withhold and reveal a little more. But sometimes telling readers what will happen creates even more tension. So you reveal the destination, but not the route. So there's this great paradox of knowing the outcome. For example, in Marcus Zuzak's The Book Thief, the narrator, Death, tells us early that Rudy will die. We still read every scene with a lump in our throat, knowing his fate makes each joke, each act of kindness unbearably fragile. We're not wondering if, we're dreading when. Oriana Fallaci took the same approach in her historical novel, A Man. From the very first page, she reveals that Alexandros Panagoulis, the resistance fighter who defied the Greek dictatorship, will die. Now, you'd think that knowledge would kill suspense. Instead, it amplifies it. Every moment of courage, every small reprieve carries extra weight because we know it won't last. Fallaci also writes in second person, and this pulls us into this character's skin. It's tactile. We experience everything through this man's body and solar plexus, his mind, his soul. She moves fluidly through time. So she juxtaposes the heroic with the more mundane to keep us off balance. We already know what ends him, yet we can't stop watching him walk toward it. The contrast between what he's survived and what will finally destroy him creates this almost unbearable tension. It is really unbearable to read when you know where he's headed, when you know the fate that he's marching towards. Here's why revealing the outcome works, and you don't have to do this with every story, but it's something to consider. When readers know the end but not the path, you create dread instead of surprise. So we brace for the blow, but can't tell when it will land. It also heightens the reader's attention because every word, every gesture becomes a clue that's driving toward the ultimate outcome. And there's investment in the present. Every small joy or triumph feels sacred because we know it's finite. This is why the technique shines in memoir and historical fiction. Readers often already know the outcome. You survived. The ship sank. The war ended. The suspense isn't what happened, but how it unfolded and what it cost. So you want to be specific about what will happen, but vague about how. For example, in Annie Ernaux's memoir, Shame, her first sentence is, "My father tried to kill my mother one Sunday in June in the early afternoon." This is an irresistible first line because it sets the stage for the entire memoir. The rest of the book explores the aftermath of this traumatic event on the author's childhood and her life. And that's the kind of knowledge that haunts readers. It really keeps them glued to the page. Okay, technique number 3. You want to end scenes on uncertainty, not resolution. So you don't want to rush to resolution at the end of every scene. How you end a scene determines whether readers keep reading. If you tie up every question, they'll put the book down because there's no reason to keep reading. You've deflated all the tension. If you end on uncertainty, a new decision, an unresolved conflict, they'll turn the page. A good rule of thumb is to enter the scene late in the middle of something and get out of the scene early. For example, her lawyer's hands shook as he gathered his files. "There's something I should have told you," he said, "about your husband." So the best scene endings make readers need the next scene to resolve the immediate tension you just created. And sometimes when you're using more than one storyline, you can delay it even more. Here's an example from Anna Rye's psychological thriller, The House in the Pines. In this scene, the protagonist, Maya, is in her mother's house, her childhood home, and she's in bed in the dark, and she smells fire. And she describes it as the tame, cozy kind, a pleasant smell in most circumstances, but her mother's house did not have a fireplace. So now she's on high alert, and so are we. Her eyes snapped open. She was still on her side, face turned to the wall about 2 feet away. But the wall had changed. Now it looked like it was made of logs. She could almost see the whorls in the wood by the flickering light of the fire she felt at her back. She wanted to get up, to run, but she couldn't move. She was paralyzed. She felt a presence in the room. She couldn't see the person, but she felt the weight of their eyes on her neck, the part of it the blankets didn't cover. Then she heard footsteps getting closer, creaking their way across the floor, moving as slowly as a funeral procession. Maya felt the bed dip as someone crawled into bed with her. A scream curdled in her lungs. A feathery breath brushed her neck. End scene. So the author traps the reader in Maya's helplessness. The paralysis is crucial. Maya can't investigate. She can't run. She can't even turn around. We're locked in her immobility. We're forced to receive each new terrible detail passively. So the slowness is more terrifying than speed. It gives Maya and us time to anticipate what's coming. The dread builds because we know someone or some presence is approaching. It feels supernatural, and we're powerless to stop it. Now, the author could continue. She could show us who's in the bed, what they do next, whether Maya screams, but stopping here, right at the moment of contact, right when the threat becomes intimate and undeniable, well, that makes it unbearable. We have to read. Okay, the novel then moves back in time to when Maya first met the antagonist, Frank, her ex-boyfriend, who she suspects is responsible for murdering 2 women, one of which was her best friend. So she cuts to a full flashback chapter when Maya first met Frank. And only after that chapter do we return to the bedroom. So the author exits right when the threat becomes undeniable, but before it becomes clear, and the reader becomes frantic to get back to Maya. What happens next? Who's in the bed? Is this real, or is it a nightmare? Is she in actual danger? So here's where the bedroom scene picks up. A ringing phone woke Maya from her dream. She reached for the phone beside her on the bed, but that wasn't the one that was ringing. She sat up, blinking into darkness. The digital clock read 2:57 a.m. She was drenched in sweat. She took a deep breath as elsewhere in the house, the ringing went on. Why wasn't her mom answering the phone? So this does 2 things brilliantly. First, it makes us wait through an entire chapter to find out what's happening in that bedroom. Second, the flashback doesn't just delay, it deepens our fear by showing us exactly why Maya should be terrified. When the interruption amplifies the tension rather than just pausing it, readers don't mind the wait. They turn pages faster. And the continuation poses more questions. Who's calling? Why isn't her mother answering? What will happen when she picks up the phone? It's a very effective way to increase narrative suspense. But what if you're not writing a thriller or a crime novel? What if you're writing fantasy or a memoir or literary fiction? Not all suspense relies on physical danger. Instead, they end on emotional revelations. It could be a realization or a recognition. It could be relational shifts, something said or unsaid that changes a dynamic. It could be competing truths, information that doesn't align with what we thought we knew. A scene could also end with a quiet choice, some internal decision with external consequences. So the urgency comes from needing to understand people and relationships, not from needing to escape danger. But each stops one beat before resolution. So you want to do a chapter ending audit. Look at your last 5 scene endings. How many resolve the moment completely? You want to move the resolution to the next chapter's opening and stop one beat earlier. A good rule of thumb is to get into a scene late and leave early. Not every ending has to explode. A quiet moment of realization can hold equal power if it opens a new question for the reader. Okay, so let's talk about what kills suspense. Even strong stories can lose tension when, number one, there's nothing at stake. We don't know why events matter. Number two, there's no uncertainty. The outcome feels inevitable or too predictable. And number three, answers come too fast. You raise a question and you close it before it builds. Number four, there's no clear question. Readers don't know what they're meant to wonder about. And number five, it's all tension with no pause. Without quiet beats, readers go numb if it's just all suspense, all tension, one after the other. The key is rhythm. You want tension, release, tension again. Suspense works like music. You need silence between the notes. So here's a quick practice for you. Write your story's driving question on a notepad or maybe even a sticky note. Is it visible in chapter 1? Read your last few chapters. Which ones end on certainty? You want to shift one to uncertainty. So here's the takeaway I want to leave you with. Suspense isn't about shocks or secrets. It's about your reader feeling invested in your characters. It comes from them caring, not knowing, and needing to know. So to build it, number one, you want to plant a central question that matters to your protagonist. Number two, and this is optional, you can reveal the outcome, the destination, and make readers dread the journey. And number three, you want to end scenes on uncertainty to pull readers forward. A scene could end with a sense of danger or threat, either emotional danger or physical. It could be an emotional revelation, like a realization or a recognition. It could be relational shifts, a shift in the balance of power between a husband and wife, for example. It could be information that thwarts what we thought we knew. A scene could end with a quiet choice, an internal decision that we expect external consequences to come. So you don't need explosions to keep readers up past midnight. You just need questions that matter and the craft to make your readers wait for the answers. So there you have it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. If you know any writers who need some support in their writing, please share this episode or the Writer Unleashed podcast in general. And if you love what you're listening to, subscribe on your favorite listening platform And if you're listening on Apple, please leave me a review. Reading how this podcast impacts your writing truly lights me up and helps me create topics for the show. Till next time, keep writing, and I'll talk to you soon.